Hey, Big Ed, back again to show you this silly, crazy, should have been simple project that I did that my buddy Kent from Norway, Ugly Casanova to YouTube, but he's going by Digital Flora FX because he might have his own effects line. Yes, my friends, you want those effects when they come out, right? Because you know Kent, he knows his stuff, right? All right, so the unveiling, the box. What's in the box? You don't want to know what's in the box. Actually, there's really not much in the box at all. Kent's box has a whole bunch of electronics and stuff because he knows what he's doing. He's kind of a bright lad. I'm not. So I tried to take the simplest path. So these are 2-inch U-bolts that I used for this. They take 5/8 inch bolts, even though they're 1/4 inch. They're actually 5/8 inch. The guy lied to me. So 2-inch U-bolts, 5/8 inch screws, 5/8 inch washers. Just a bit on washers for a second because look, I'm not mechanical. I just did this because it's the shutdown and I'm bored out of my mind. I can only practice so much, but I have been practicing. So if you can see, I put washers after every bolt, and this is the same on the inside. Now, again, I'm a knucklehead, so I didn't know this. I did it first, going, oh, all I just got to do is put a bolt there. A nut there. A bolt. See, I don't even know. But a nut, 5/8 inch nut there, 1/4 inch nuts on the small one. We'll get to that in a second. But I was like, oh, all I got to do is put a nut there and we're good. Yeah, you know what the problem is? You know what the problem is because you've probably done anything mechanical before, unlike me. The problem is then when you start tightening from below, this thing starts being pulled down because you're just tightening the screw and it's just the threads are anyway, you got to use washers. So again, let me get my terminology correct here so I don't screw anybody up worse than me. 2-inch U-bolt, 5/8 inch nuts, 5/8 inch washers, that's on this. This was sourced from Home Depot. Don't ask me why I had them. There's a lot of stuff I don't know why I had. A lot of the stuff in this I don't know why I had. But so most of this you can do with stuff you have, or you could get at Lowe's or Home Depot easily, pretty much actually. Not expensive. The enclosure might be one of the biggest expenses, but I had this enclosure. Again, don't ask me why. I had a vintage Radio Shack enclosure in my closet, in the box, in the wrapping. I must have bought it like over 20 years ago thinking I was going to do something, which wasn't going to happen until today. So this, I don't even remember what I paid for it, but it was probably a few bucks at the time. But a really good enclosure might cost you 10 to 20 bucks. You know, there's sites online for enclosures. I would recommend getting a good enclosure. And the reason is, let's see if I can show this to the camera. This is a little floppy. You know, it's not the best material. It's a little soft on the sides. The other sides are pretty hard. It worked, but I would say get a good enclosure. Kent, Ugly Casanova, when he did his, he had a good enclosure because he converted the Electro Faustus, which already had a contact mic in it. But you can do this for 60 bucks to 100 bucks, depending on what you already have. I don't think it's going to be more than 100 bucks. It was 120 bucks for me. And what broke the budget, because I had some things, was I had to go get this thing, the drill right. This is a genius piece of machinery by Eastern Technology Corporation. This was $60 on its own. So it put me up around $120, 120, 130 all in. But it would have been $60 if but again, I had the enclosure. I had a contact mic. Why did I have a contact? I don't know why I had a contact mic. I probably thought I was going to do something cool with it a long time ago, and instead, woo. But contact mics are not expensive, and the enclosure shouldn't be too expensive. So I'll show you, let me continue how I did this. So this little bolt, I decided that I wanted to put this thing on the front of it, a Jaws harp. But I needed a bolt for that. I knew the dimensions of the Jaws harp, the width, how wide it was. So there's these awesome guys at bolt.com. They thought I was nuts at first. The second time I called, they thought it was actually pretty entertaining. So I dedicate this to the guys at bolt.com because they got me this perfect size. They got me the nuts, the right washers. I think I called them back again for something else. They were awesome. They were actually really, really helpful. They knew their stuff. They were on it, man, and I got what I needed. So very, very kudos to those guys. It's dedicated to the guys at Bolt. And it's super cheap. Again, I mean, each thing was like $3 or $4. So I got the mini one. These are 1/4-inch drill pieces. The other ones are, let's see here. I only used 2 drill bits, really. Yeah, 5/16 and 1/4. So it was 5/16 for the wider holes, 1/4 for that. And then I used a tiny drill bit for my used guitar string tree. You gotta have a used guitar string tree, right? Right. Pretty cool. The springs were the toughest thing because the original springs I got from Home Depot has super shitty springs. I can tell you, I knew that going in because I use springs on my lap steel when I do guitar preparations on it, and their strings suck. There's a hardware store, an old-fashioned hardware store, not far from here, but they weren't seeing people. And I got this all before the shutdown anyway, and after the shutdown, it wasn't gonna happen. But again, there's a website called Zorro, Z-O-R-O, and I got these springs from them to replace the shitty ones, and they're actually really good springs. They have a nice tension to them, which the Home Depot ones didn't. I don't know what those were for, but I went through all the springs at Home Depot, and I got the best they had, and it still sucked. Not a big fan of Home Depot. Plus, it wasn't, like, this was right at the top of the shutdown, and this is a store that sells cleaning solutions and fluids and whatnot, and they had no way to clean their carts or their baskets. Okay, anyway, so these are 1/4-inch bolts. Again, washers everywhere. So washer where it meets up here, nut. Another nut washer. On the inside, it's the same thing. And on the inside, it's basically all I have. There's no electronics. It's just bolts being held by nuts and washers. The only piece of electronics, yeah, isn't that tidy? Yeah, well, I had a little accident yesterday, but you know, it's whatever. So that's my 1/4-inch contact mic. The idea is that I was gonna drill a hole there, but my drill, I have a drill that's good enough for 90% of everything you need it for, but this is my other tip, drills. If you don't have a super duper powerful drill for this type of things and metal drill bits, borrow them from somebody. But if you have them, great. But I mean, I had the right bits, but my drill was like, I was working. I was having to do half of the work pressing on it, even with really good bits, and it would die, and then I'd have to charge it for 3 or 4 hours. It was just a pain in the butt. So get a good drill if you're going to do something like this, a really powerful professional drill. And really any decent bits. I got mine, I got these DeWalt bits off of Amazon. And, you know, they say they can do, you know, wood and steel, metal. Metal, okay, well. But you can get specific, because I've drilled the bottom, I've done those conversions on a pedal train with a real metal drill bit and with a real drill that wasn't mine, and zoom, it's a whole nother thing. So that would be my big recommendation, is get a professional drill, access to one somehow, because that'll make all the drill parts cleaner and easier. So to get back to this, my original plan was to drill a hole with a slight bit, because see the contact mic, the contact mic has to be attached to the top. That's how this whole thing works. The Electrofaustus, Kent's, every one of these, okay? So if you're just putting the mic to the top, the contact mic to the top, you have to have it make contact. Well, mine, anyway, by starting to drill, it started slipping. I couldn't use the drill right on that. It's not made for that. The other thing I would recommend is if you have a vise. I mean, I got a vise off of Amazon for $20. It worked great. Great. You know, boom. But you're going to need a vise to do a lot of this stuff, especially the pipe stuff. So anyway, so I started drilling. I messed it up. And then what I decided to do was just come straight down with the drill just to make the cavity. It was the perfect size for the 1/4 inch. And I made sure I didn't go down too far, so it sat where it was supposed to sit. Where I had the little boo-boo yesterday is I started putting silicone, because that's just silicone to attach it to the top, and silicone's conductive, right? Well, it got a little away from me. It didn't get into the 1/4 inch, so I should be happy about that, but it got a little away from me, and then I thought it was gonna dry clear. It didn't. But it was super duper heavy duty silicone. So that's the 1/4 inch. There's no other electronics. Everything on the inside are just the bolts being held by nuts. That's it. So that's really simple. But let's get to the pipe, okay? Because the pipe's a pain in the ass. If you don't already have pipe, and let's back up. If you're gonna go this way with the U-bolts, which is cool because you can carry it, and in theory, it's a good idea. What Kent did is he had a U-shaped a channel with 90-degree angles that he put his jig bits, saws, things on for his sounds. That might be a better way, because then these pieces are being held on the front and the back. It's giving more, it's just giving it more support in 2 different positions on it. So it's just if you can find something like that, I couldn't. So I asked the knuckleheads at Home Depot again, what should I do? And they're like, oh, get some omit pipe. Well, omit pipe is this. I use the same piece for both. I just put some caps on this one because I cut it really poorly. Omit is like a plumbing pipe. It's half inch plumbing pipe. It's like you can get like 11 or 10 feet for like $11 or something, whatever it was. Maybe even cheaper. It's like nothing. However, I had to cut through with a hacksaw and mark the spots where I wanted to drill. This is where the drilling got to be ridiculous, and that's where the drill right comes in, because you put this over the pipe, right? The pipe goes through here, and you brace it once the pipe is being held in a vise, and then you just line up where your dots are, and you can see it through this hole. It was amazing. It made like all the difference, like seriously. So that made it easier, but again, the drill made it was work. So that's 1/2 inch Omit pipe. I recommend marking the lengths of the pipe and where the holes specifically are going to go for both. Drilling the holes first, because the drill right press will not go on a small piece like this. I found out I had to cut a second piece. So the smart way to do this is to put an Omit pipe, mark it, lengths, drill holes, put the drill holes on the drill right, or if you've got a really good drill, maybe it'll go right through, but you're gonna need a vise for sure. And then cut the pipe after you've drilled your holes. Don't do what I did. Don't do what I did. I killed 2 of my fingers on this project. It was hilarious. And then one other tip. So, you know, these jigsaw blades, they're like $3 or something. I don't know, ridiculous. Super cheap, like at least maybe $5 at the most. So they're easy to find. And of course, a U-joint bolt, a U-bolt thing has a bar. Here's where it gets a little tricky. So that bar is not meant to be completely flush, because it's supposed to hold just to brace a pipe. So where I had problems, and this is where I thought that Kent had an advantage, because you had the front and back support of a U-shaped device channel underneath, is, so when I first did it, I screwed in, oh, well, you know, it's got a brace, so I'll screw the brace in against the things. They weren't tight enough. They were like sort of held, but not really. They were rattling a little bit, and you don't really want saw blades rattling around a little bit. So what did I do? I cut a piece of rubber. I had a piece of rubber laying around, actually sticky rubber, which I sometimes use on pedals that are off my board so they don't slide. I got it off of Amazon. So I cut a piece of rubber, put it the length underneath this, and put the boards underneath that, and then screwed it in. Solid. I did the same thing for the jaws harp, because that was the only way that was going to stay. Also, I had to put the rubber on the jaws harp on the front, on the top and the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. But, there's 2 reasons for that. One, because I didn't want to destroy it, because it's an instrument unto itself. And second, I was getting too much resonance, and this was without even plugging it in. And then, one more thing about the, so I'm pretty sure that Zorro sent me the wrong size springs. I like the springs. Pretty sure they're the wrong size. So I had to cut them. I have a professional cutter, a really heavy duty professional cutter, you know, for making patch cables. And that worked. But then be very careful. One hand has to hold one side of this while the other one takes a wrench and bends them out. Now, it's not going to be that hard because look, I bent them out. They're staying in place. So if you have to cut springs, it's not the worst thing in the world. But it wasn't the best either. You know who has like an amazing size spring? Like the only place that I ordered springs from, and they came too late, I ordered them and it took like 10 days for me to get them, was Walmart. Walmart had a 3 1/4, when it said a 3.25 inch spring, that's what it was. This said 3.25 inch spring and it ended up being 4 inches. I don't know. But Walmart had this awesome spring, 3.25. Cheap too. So I got like 4 of them. Oh, so if anybody needs any extra springs, I have like 4 extras of these that are not cut. And the Walmart ones that are the right size, I think I've got 4 of those. So if you need any of that. And then last but not least, it's a guitar string tree. I had just changed, and I waited to change the guitar strings on my acoustic because I thought that phosphor bronze would be really nice and conductive. I drilled a little bit too big a hole. It's the only hole that I drilled for the whole project that was probably bigger than I needed, but it wasn't ridiculous. It wasn't over the top big. It was just probably, But so I just stuck more strings in there. I just found some other old crappy strings that I was never going to use that are probably 20 years old and dead. And I cut them down and boom, it fit. It's being held by a zip tie here. Now, why a zip tie here? Well, that's just to keep them kind of from being too unruly. And there's 2 zip ties on the bottom, a zip tie on the very bottom to obviously hold them together, and then a zip tie right under the top. And there you go, the Scrapyard. If you have any other questions on how not to do this, I'm your man. Protect your hands, please. I cut this one, it got infected. I burned this one. I screwed up this one. From drilling, I got a tendonitis. Just wear gloves, protect your hands, have the right tools, not like me. Do as I say, not like I do. And protect your hands. We're musicians, whether we're piano players, bass players, drummers, guitar players, whatever. Protect your hands. I got a little overzealously into this, so learn from my mistakes. Now, oh, wait, so how does it sound? I don't know. I haven't plugged it in yet. Should we plug it in? All right, let's plug it in. Oh my God. It went in. All right, that's good. Yeah, I know. Old joke there, right? It actually works. I'm just running it through my little mini pedal board here. Pretty cool, right? Wow, okay. It worked. So go figure. I will say that the only thing, let me unplug this. The only thing that Kent did, which I thought was really cool, and I did intend to do, I bought a piece of copper. It's a pretty good piece of copper. And was that he had a piece coming out here that he had kind of scrolled up, and so you could hit it. This is aluminum, what do they call this? Aluminum flashing. It's not good enough. It's not going to, you know, make enough of a percussive difference to, it's really flimsy. But this stuff, if I can cut this, figure out some way in the future to cut this down and put it here off to the side, which was the original intention, right? Then that could be another cool addendum to this, just another aspect, because as you heard, it will get picked up, and that's the whole idea of having the contact mic on the top. All right, so again, if you have any more questions, let me know below. Let me know below. And I'll be happy to, if I missed anything, or give you some advice or whatever you need. All right? The Scrapyard. Thanks to Kent again. I wouldn't have even started this without him, so check out his video on YouTube as well.